Welcome to the final Jubilee. Today we'll be reading from Azazel Theologically Unmasked, Chapter 1. The Scapegoat and the God of the Desert. Before the flood, sin had a name. Before Jesus walked into the wilderness, someone else had been sent there. Set, the desert god of Egypt. All-knowing and powerful are the gods of Egypt. Ancient and mysterious power and generosity. The gods of Egypt were many things. From the sun to the earth and the sky, they originated thousands of years ago into a land far away from Egypt. They changed in mystery and stories of great battles and tales of the thrones. From the underworld to the beginning of the creation of time, their stories soon became a Rashomon effect with other gods in Greece. Many stories of corruption came out of one of the oldest gods, known as Set, also known as Seth. Set was the son of Geb and Nut. In the Book of Enoch Theological Story, we talked about how Geb was the god of the earth and Nut was the goddess of the sky, linking them to Adam and Eve. The story of a Rashomon effect when the Tower of Babel mixed more than just languages, but also religions. Set was the brother of Osiris, and Set was jealous of him. Set killed Osiris and is annexous with the story of Cain and Abel. But seeing that the Egyptian gods can be many things, Set was more than the story of Cain and Abel. Set was the story of Azazel, the fallen son of God, who brought corruption to mankind. And he was the desert god of war and chaos. Set murdered his brother Osiris and had sexual relationships and wars with his nephew Horus to try to keep the throne because he wanted to be the king. Moses knew the desert god by another name. How do we know that Azazel is the Egyptian god Set? If we look at Leviticus 16, 6 through 10, it explains that Aaron prayed over one of the two goats for all the sins and sent that one to Azazel, the god of the desert. If we look back at who wrote Leviticus, it was credited to Moses. From the beginning of Moses' life, he grew up educated in Egyptian mythology. He knew the stories of their gods well. According to most scholars, Moses lived with the Pharaoh Ramesses II. Set in Egyptian mythology was looked at as Satan. And as I talked about in the book Enoch the Theological Story, he was matched with the Greek monster Typhoon by the Greeks. As we put Set's role as the god of the desert of war and chaos, he fits well with who Azazel was in the Book of Enoch. The scapegoat ritual of Yom Kippur was the holiest day in Israel. Yom Kippur was the Day of Atonement. On this day, two goats are chosen. One is sacrificed to Yahweh. The other is sent into the wilderness, which is the desert, and it bears all the sins of the people on it. This was how they repented for their sins once a year before Jesus came and overrode it. Sin in the wilderness, the ritual of the two goats. Who was Azazel? The Bible offers no details beyond this moment. Enoch names him, and Egyptian myth reflects him. According to Egyptian myth, he was one of the oldest gods. In the Book of Enoch, in chapter 69, he was one of the leaders of the fallen sons of God who came down during the time of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. He then later corrupted mankind by teaching them ways of the war, magic, lustful things, leading them into fornication and forbidden knowledge. Azazel's spiritual presence is corruption and impure. He is the God of disorder, and he became the God of the desert when he was bound in chains in the desert in a deep, dark pit for his transgressions. The dual goat ritual of Leviticus was how ancient people externalized sin onto desert spirits as a form of cosmetic hygiene. The scapegoat was not just a ritual. It was a rejection, a banishment of corruption, sending it back to its source. The Tower of Babel, scattering of language, fracturing of worship. Azazel was not forgotten. He was named, and sin was sent back to him. Azazel's rule in the story is not passive. He is not simply the one to whom sin is sent. He is the one who planted its seed. Enoch, chapter 10, tells us that God commanded Archangel Raphael to bind him with a special chain and cast him into Jubilee, where he will stay until the final judgment. This Rashomon echoes in the Bible and along with the Egyptian and Greek stories, as the Tower of Babel tells its story well, with the Greeks linking it to the battle of Zeus and Typhoon. Hermes and Thoth are in both of those stories, just like Enoch is the front runner of giving Azazel his judgment. This Rashomon effect all leads back to the Tower of Babel that I've covered in Enoch the Theological story, the same story that covers multiple names. And today we are looking at the Rashomon effect of Azazel. The Tower of Babel was of the time after the flood. We can look into Genesis chapter 11 to get this story. It was of the time of Shem, Noah's son, when Nimrod reigned. Genesis 11, 1 through 10 ESV. Now the whole earth had one language and the same words. And as people migrated from the east, they found a plain in the land of Shirah and settled there. And they said to one another, "Come, let us make bricks and burn them thoroughly." And they had brick for stone and bitumen for mortar. Then they said, "Come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower with its top in the heavens, and let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be dispersed over the face of the whole earth." And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the children of man had built. And the Lord said, "Behold, they are one people, and they have all one language. And this is only the beginning of what they will do. And nothing that they propose to do will now be impossible for them. Come, let us go down and there and confuse their language, so that they may not understand one another's speech." So the Lord dispersed them from there over the face of all the earth, and they left off building the city. Therefore the name was called Babel, because there the Lord confused the language of all the earth. And from there the Lord dispersed them over the face of all the earth. These are the generations of Shem. When Shem was 100 years old, he fathered Arpachshad 2 years after the flood. We can find more detailed stories of the Tower of Babel in the Book of Jasher and the Book of Jubilees. We will be reading from the ancient Book of Jasher and Jubilees by Dr. Ken Johnson. Jasher 9:20 through 39. And the king Nimrod reigned securely, and all the earth was under his control, and all the earth was on one tongue and words of union. And all the princes of Nimrod and his great men took counsel together, Put, Mitzurah, Cush, and Canaan, their families, and they said to each other, "Come, let us build ourselves a city, and in it a strong tower, and its top reaching heaven, and we will make ourselves famed, so that we may reign mighty over them, and that we may not become scattered over the earth on account of their wars. And they all went before the king, and they told the king these words. And the king agreed with them in this affair, and he did so. And all the families assembled concerning of the 600,000 men, and they went to seek a extensive piece of ground to build the city and the tower. And they sought in the whole earth, and they found none like one valley at the east of the land of Sharon. About 2 days' walk, and they journeyed there, and they dwelt there, and they began to make bricks and burn fires to build the city and the tower that they had imagined to complete. And the building of the tower was unto them a transgression and a sin, and they began to build it. And whilst they were building against the Lord God of heaven, they imagined in their hearts to war against him and to ascend into heaven. And all these people and all the families divided themselves in 3 parts. The first said, "We will ascend into heaven and fight against him." The second said, "We will ascend into heaven and place our own gods there and serve them." And the third part said, "We will ascend to heaven and smite him with bows and spears." And God knew all their works and all their evil thoughts. And he saw the city and the tower which they were building. And when they were building, they built themselves a great city and a very high and strong tower. And on account of this height, the mortar and the bricks did not reach the builder in their ascents to it unto those who went up had completed a full year day. And after that, they reached to the builders and gave them the mortar and the bricks. Thus was it done daily. And behold, these ascended and others descended the whole day. And if a brick should fall from their hands and get broken, they would all weep over it. And if a man fell and died, none of them would look at him. And the Lord knew their thoughts. And it came to pass, when they were building, they cast the arrows towards the heavens. And all the arrows fell upon them, filled with blood. And when they saw them, they said to each other, "Surely we have slain all those that are in heaven. For this was from the Lord, in order to cast them to air, and in order to destroy them from off the face of the ground." And they built the tower and city, and they did this thing daily until the days and years were elapsed. And God said to the 70 angels who stood foremost before him, to those who were near to him, saying, "Come, let us descend and confuse their tongues, that one man shall not understand the language of his neighbor." And they did so unto them. And from that day forward, they forgot each man his neighbor's tongue, and they could not understand to speak in one tongue. And when the builder took from the hands of his neighbor lime for stone, which he did not order, the builder would cast it away and throw it unto his neighbor, that he would die. And they did so many days, and they killed many of them in this manner. And the Lord smote the 3 divisions that were there, and he punished them according to their worlds and designs. Those who said they will ascend to heaven and serve our gods became like apes and elephants. And those who said, "We will smite the heaven with arrows," the Lord killed them, one man through the hand of his neighbor. And the 3rd division of those who said, "We will ascend to heaven and fight against him," the Lord scattered them throughout the earth. And those who were left amongst them, when they knew and understood the evil which was coming upon them, they forsook the building, and they also became scattered upon the face of the whole earth. And they ceased building the city and the tower. Therefore he called that place Babel. For there the Lord confused the language of the whole earth. Behold, it was at the east of the land of Shiran. And as the tower which the sons of men built, the earth opened its mouth and swallowed up 1/3 part thereof, and a fire also descended from the heaven and burned another third, and the other third is left to this day, and it is on that part which was a loft, and its circumference is 3 days' walk, and many of the sons of men died in that tower, a people without number. Jubilees 10:18 through 27. And in the 33rd Jubilee, in the first year, in the second week, Pigla took to himself a wife, whose name was Luma, the daughter of Sinyara, and she bore him a son in the 4th year of this week, and he named his name Reu, for he said, before the children of men have become evil through the wicked purpose of building for themselves a city and a tower in the land of Shiran. For they departed from the land of Adaret, eastward of Shiran. For in this day they built the city and the tower, saying to go, let us ascend thereby into heaven. And they began to build, and in the 4th week they made brick with fire, and the bricks served them for stone, and the clay with which they cemented them together was asphalt, which cometh out of the sea, and out of the fountains of water in the land of Shirah. And they built it 43 years were they building it. It breathed was 203 bricks, and the height of a brick was the third of one. Its height amongst to 5,403 cubits and palms, and the 13th shades. And the Lord our God said unto us, behold, they are one people. And this they began to do, and now nothing will be withholden from them. Go to, let us go down and confuse their language, that they may not understand one another's speech, and they may be dispersed unto cities and nations, and one purpose will no longer abide with them till the day of judgment. And the Lord descended, and we descended with him to see the city and the tower which the children of men had built. And he confused their language, and they no longer understood one another's speech. And they ceased then to build the city and the tower. For this reason, the whole land of Shirah is called Babel, because the Lord did there confused all the language of the children of men, and from thence they were dispersed into their cities, each according to his language and his nation. And the Lord sent a mighty wind against the tower, and overthrew it under the earth. And behold, it was between Ashurah and Babylon in the land of Shiran. And they called its name Overthrow. In the 4th week, in the 1st year, in the beginning thereof, in the 4th and 30th Jubilee, there they dispersed from the land of Shinar. Jasher and the beast gods of Egypt. In the book of Jasher, those who built the tower were not only scattered, they were also judged in symbolic form. Some became like apes, others were destroyed by fire, and some by an earthquake. Most significantly, Jasher notes that they began to worship multiple gods, a direct rebellion against the Most High. the Rashomon effect, Set, Typhoon, and the Mask of Azazel. This moment opens a new dimension to the Rashomon effect. The gods of Egypt may be the echoes of those Babel builders whose transformation became tradition. Those judgments became iconography. The gods of beasts, falcon head Horus, jackal head Anubis, serpent formed Apophis, may trace their origins to divine punishment by Babel. When God scattered language, he may have also scattered spiritual identity, casting fallen men into mythic forms remembered as gods. What Jasher gives us is not just a punishment story, but a theological origin of beast gods, corrupted worship, and divine confusion. This helps us understand why Azazel takes on many faces. In Egypt, he is Set, in Greece, Typhoon, in Babel, perhaps many. But in the spiritual, he remains the same, the enemy who receiveth sin, and who will be bound by heaven. The Book of Jubilees and the Tower, true purpose. The Book of Jubilees does not retell the Tower of Babel, it decodes it. The Genesis is brief. Jubilees is surgical. The construction lasted 43 years. The tower stood 5,433 cubits high. Materials were stolen from the womb of the earth, making the bricks with clay and asphalt from the sea. Mankind didn't build this tower for shelter. They had wicked intentions to ascend into heaven. The Book of Jubilees also gives us a date of time when it was being built, in the 40th and 3 years and the 3 and 30th Jubilee. To decode this, somewhere around 1645 to 1688 a.m. Jubilees calls the location of the Tower of Babel overthrow, a name that would echo across cultures. The undefiled tongue was fragmented. Their god became gods, Set, Typhoon, Azazel, beast gods, and the thunderous rebels. All were born not from divine revelations, but from the ruins of Babel. In that moment, language split and memories broke. The law of Enoch began to be scattered through different cultures and religions, and from one enemy came many names of Satan. From this broken tower rose 1,000 stories, and all will be divided unto the day of the great judgment. Josephus and the Tower of Babel. The Jewish historian Flavius Josephus offers another dimension to the Tower of Babel in his work, Antiquities of the Jews, Book 1, Chapter 4. In Josephus' words, he explains Nimrod, a mighty tyrant and grandson of Ham, who led the construction of the Tower of Babel. Nimrod changed the government into tyranny and pursued people, and their success was not from God, but from their own courage. Josephus' story of the Tower of Babel also supports the Book of Jasher and the Book of Jubilees on different events. The connection with Jubilees is the storm God sent. With Jasher, the connection is the wickedness in wanting to battle God. Josephus, Jewish Antiquities, Book Chapter 4, 2 through 3. Now it was Nimrod who excited them to such an affront and contempt of God. He was the grandson of Ham, the son of Noah, a bold man, and of great strength of hand. He pursued them not to ascribe it to God, as if it was through his means that they were happy, but to build that it was their own courage which pursued that happiness. He also gradually changed the government into a tyranny, seeing no other way of turning men from the fear of God, but to bring them into a consent of dependence on his power. He also said he would revenge on God if he should have a mind to drown the world again, for that he would build a tower too high for the waters to be able to reach, and that he would avenge himself on God for destroying their forefathers. Now the multitude were very ready to follow the determination of Nimrod, and to esteem it a piece of cowardice to submit to God. And they built a tower, neither sparing any pains, nor being in any degree negligent about the work. And by reason of the multitude of hands employed in it, it grew very high, sooner than anyone could expect. But the thickness of it was so great, and it was so strongly built, that thereby its great height seemed at first to be less than it really was. It was built of burned brick, cemented together with mortar, made of bitumen, that it might not be labeled to admit water. When God saw that they acted so madly, he did not resolve to destroy them utterly, since they were not grown wiser by the destruction of the former sinners. But he caused a disturbance among them by producing in them diverse languages, and causing that through the multitude of those languages they should not be able to understand one another. That place wherein they built the tower is now called Babylon, because of the confusion of the language, which they already understood before. From the Hebrews mean by the word Babel, confusion. The Sibyl also makes mention of this tower and of confusion of the language when she says thus, when all men were on one language, some of them built a high tower, as if they would thereby ascend up to heaven. But the gods sent storms of wind and overthrew the tower, and gave everyone his peculiar language. For this reason it was that the city was called Babylon. But as to the plain of Sharon, in the country of Babylonian, Hysterius mentions it, when he says thus, such of the priests as they're saved took the scarred vessel of the Jupiter and Valius, and came to Sharon the Babylonian. Josephus does not mention Azazel directly, but his description of Nimrod could be read as a human mask of Azazel in rebellion. Nimrod, he is a vengeful and determined to build a tower that God's wrath of a flood could not reach. Nimrod declares war against God. He said he would be revenged on God. He would build a tower too high for the waters to reach, and avenge himself for destroying their forefathers. This vengeance is not far from the Watchers' defiance in the Book of Enoch. The Watchers descend to earth and taught forbidden knowledge and sexual corruption. Nimrod builds upward with vengeance to bring sin up to the heaven, while the Watchers bring sin to the earth. This theological echo positions Nimrod as a avatar of Azazel, not in the flesh, but in the ideology. Where Azazel taught the world was the rebellion from above, Nimrod practiced it politically and religiously on earth. Babel was not just a tower. It was a temple of pride for the sinful men on the earth. Origin of demons and Azazel's work. The bloodline of the Watcher's corruption still had echoes on this earth, as it says in Enoch 15:8-12. The spirits of the children of the Watchers, also known as the giants, will be called evil spirits. They will afflict, corrupt, attempt, battle, work destruction on the earth, and do evil. Enoch 15:8-12. My judgment for the giants is that since they are born from flesh, they will be called evil spirits and will remain on earth, because they were created from above, from the holy watchers at death. Their spirits will come forth from their bodies and dwell on earth. They will be called evil spirits. The heavenly spirits will dwell in heaven, but the terrestrial spirits who were born on earth will dwell on earth. The evil spirits of the giants will work destruction on the earth and do evil. They will not eat nor drink, but be invisible. They will rise up against the children of men and against the women, because they have proceeded from them. The Book of Jubilees also, which is in the same chapter of the Tower of Babel, speaks of these demons leading Noah's son astray into corruption. Jubilees 10:1-2. And in the third week of this Jubilee, the unclean demon began to lead astray the children of the sons of Noah, and to err and destroy them. And the sons of Noah came to Noah their father, and they told him concerning the demons which were leading astray and blinding and slaying his sons' sons. If we also look at verses 7-8, it talks about how Mastema, which is the name for Satan, who we are pointing at is Azazel, who asks God to let some of them stay with him. So not only is Azazel bound and double, now 1/10 of these demons are with him in the desert. Jubilees 10:7-9. And the Lord our God made us to bind all. And the chief of the spirits, Mastema, came and said, Lord Creator, let some of them remain before me, and let them hearken to my voice, and do all that I shall say unto them. For if some of them are not left to me, I shall not be able to execute the power of my will on the sons of men. For these are for corruption and leading astray before my judgment. For great is the wickedness of the sons of men. And he said, let the 10th part of them remain before him, and let 9 parts descend into the place of condemnation. With this surgical connection of Jubilees, tying the wicked men of the Tower of Babel's times together with the Book of Enoch, it shows how much control Azazel had on the war that Nimrod was bringing to God with building a tower that reached the heavens. Azazel was bound into the earth, and his demons worked hard to seek out his words to possess mankind and corrupt it with destruction, which led us back to Set, the Egyptian god of the war and chaos, the god of the desert, who Zeus threw into Tartarus after trying to destroy Olympus. Azazel is bound, but still in command of his demons of destruction.